I wish I could tell you I didn't have to learn anything I knew at all.
A business owner can get to a certain point by themselves. They start bringing people on and then they look to scale, but they're still kind of the choke point.
Managing people, I believe, is the most difficult part of owning and operating a business.
Honestly, the transition of growing from small to big, this last year, the transition from being the seller producer, I was the company. I mean, I have all my people, but literally, I've got nothing to sell except for basically me. So many lessons, but still so much to learn.
Hi, and welcome to this episode of the Business Brains and BS podcast. We are very fortunate today to be joined by Erin Renfrow, the founder of EKA / Renfrow Construction. Erin, thanks so much for being here, man. It's great to have you.
Hey, thanks for having me. It's great to be here.
Congratulations.
My first podcast. What?
All right. Well, thanks. Yeah, thanks for thanks for dipping your toe in the water with us. So why don't you tell us a little bit about who you are, what you guys are about, and we kind of roll from there.
Erin Renfrow, husband of one wife, father of 2 children and 2 bonus children. Kind of fell into this construction thing after life change of not being married to the first one anymore. And here we go. God's blessed us. And today is the day I get to start my fame, because you all have brought me on to the Bears, Brains, and BS podcast. So thank you, boys.
Well, you're welcome. So tell us a little bit about EKA. What do you guys do? Where do you focus the business?
Well, the fun thing with the business is EK is a horrible name, but I started just selling roofs, and the guy was a 1099 salesman. He said, I can pay Erin Renfrow or I can pay a company, and then you get way better write-offs. I'm like, all right, well, we need a company. So my kids are Kirsten and Anthony. So I spell my name like a girl, E-R-I-N. I know, boy named Sue, that's me. But that's what so it's just EKA, and the technical name is consulting, because a consultant has a very low insurance rate. And then from there, once the guy I was selling roofs for moved to Florida, it just, because now I was staying local instead of traveling around America, it just turned in somebody needed some siding, somebody needs some other stuff, and so it just kind of morphed into a bunch of other things, predominantly in the apartment world. So our tagline in the apartment world, whatever you need, we got a guy. And so that's what we've done for the past, I guess about 8 years. And then 2 years ago, after COVID, things were great. And then I saw it slowing down. So I said, we need to move into some government-y type jobs, because that money's always there. So we've been doing a lot of work for the Cherokee. So basically, we just say, if they break it, we fix it. If you want it pretty, we make it pretty.
All right. Well, Erin, why don't you tell us a little bit more about the business? What does EKA stand for? What are the different areas of construction that you guys tend to specialize in, and kind of how'd you get there?
EKA actually stands for Erin, Kirsten, and Anthony, which is my 2 kids. I just named it that because I was working for a guy as a 1099 salesman. He said, I can pay Erin Renfrow or I can pay a company. Taxes are way better for a company. Okay. So the name didn't matter. And so that's what we did. And then from there, whenever he moved, I took over running the roofing stuff for him, took over his business here, just maintaining it, managing it. And then the opportunity came up for me to kind of move out on my own and then start doing some other stuff. Some people needed some siding stuff and then some drywall. And we got real involved with the apartment world. That was about 80% of our business. And so our tagline was, whatever you need, we got a guy. So we were just there to make the world easy for whatever problems they ran into. We found out real quick that in the apartment world, you're working with people that are good at apartments, but not so good with property. And they were having a hard time of, hey, well, we had some stuff done. Well, the painter said the drywall guy did bad. The drywall guy said the painter did bad. And they all blamed the framer. Said, hey, you got one call. Now, if anything goes wrong, it's me. We'll handle it. And so that's kind of where we got started. And so basically now we've moved in. We're doing a lot of work with the tribes, kind of heading towards, looking to move into federal, but baby steps. And we just got done building our first house. So moving into that. it's kind of just bigger, better, whatever's next. But basically, they break it, we fix it. They want it pretty, we make it prettier. That's what we do.
Very nice. So, so as the organization has grown, what have been some of the, I guess, some of the lessons that you've learned? Because, very often what tends to happen is a business owner can get to a certain point by themselves. They start bringing people on, and then they look to scale, but they're still kind of the choke point. So, have there been any lessons you learned along the way that maybe you want to share with our listeners and viewers, as far as maybe things to avoid, or things that things that you'd recommend?
I wish I could tell you I didn't have to learn anything I knew at all, but I didn't, surprisingly. One of the deals, I mean, actually, for y'all's watching this, Eric is a business coach. And so he came and talked at a networking thing I went to. And I told my lady, that's my CEO, actually runs my company for me now for the most part. I said, hey, if Michael Jordan needs a coach, Tiger Woods needs a coach. I mean, I'm about that level, but I could probably use a coach too. And so, and it's fantastic having somebody to kind of come. A lot of the stuff, you should do it, but now you've got someone giving you some deadlines and helping ooching you along. So there's your shameless plug, Eric. You're welcome.
All right,
Outside
well,
of that,
thanks. Checks in the mail. Yeah.
honestly, the transition of growing from small to big, and in the apartment world, learning to manage the politics of every different management group or every different, has been a lot. And then this last year, the transition from being the seller producer, I was the company. I mean, I have all my people, but I mean, literally, I've got nothing to sell except for basically me. So, I mean, we were doing good revenue, but to get that next level and have something to market to sell at some point to give me an exit one of these days. So now I'm moving into managing people, and so many lessons, but still so much to learn. And we just did a great big 2-day session with the action coach guru from Australia. And basically, here, Greg is a counselor. That's all it was. It was 2 days of just intense counseling of, you got to be your best you. And it sucked because I learned I've got a lot of work to do. I'm like, oh. So we get to have a cigar and a drink today.
There you go. So, Erin, you just talked about working on who you are, and kind of that personal growth. And that's one of the things that that I like to talk with business owners about is, there's someplace you want to go, but you're not going to be able to get there unless you take the time to work on yourself, to work on your be, right? Who you are and who you're becoming. So what are some of the things that you've done or are doing to help you along that leadership, personal development, growth trajectory?
Well, I've always been a big podcast guy. I've always been a big reader, so I like to read. I like the podcast. Couple of the things that I've had to do for myself is stupid and almost embarrassing. That this dang thing, I've had to put limits, so that way, whenever I say, "Hey, I'm just gonna look at Facebook group." Oh, I need it for marketing. I need to go on there and look and see. 30 minutes later, you're like, "Oh crap! I've been scrolling stupid vines." So it's a lot of little things like that. And then part of it is I'm having to work with my team, is trying to remove myself, because I can do it better than they can do it. And it makes sense. I've been doing it for 10 years and I have my way. And sometimes I got to remind myself, I'm not a 16, 18-year-old boy that I know best. You got to give them the room and let them do their thing. And so that's been a struggle for me. Just the way that you approach people. It's like, I don't like conflict, and with customers, that it tends to be a really good thing. But with employees, having to say, whoa, hang on, no, I am the boss, in a way that's not saying I am the boss. So it's been a heck of a year to finally understand I manage people now. I'm more so than I do the day to day. And that's tough. And I'm trying to work myself back into where I have enough people in place that I can go back to just doing sales,
Mhm.
which is what I like the best. And we're getting closer, ooching along.
Yeah,
Progress, not perfection.
I learned that from a guy named Mr. Coach Eric. It's
you
been
talked
fantastic.
about having to manage people, and for what it's worth, I'm a obviously I work for people. I work with people for a living. I spend, my days trying to get people, in a place that their life feels improved or that they feel better about what's going on. And even despite that, that's my profession. Managing people, I believe, is the most difficult part of owning and operating a business. And I in the past, early in my career when I very first started managing people, foolishly thought, well, I'm good. I'm good at communication. I'm good at reading people. I'm good at understanding people. And then, yeah, start managing people, and it's not the same thing. So what you're describing, I think a lot of people can relate to. One thing that I realized is, managing other people and just the stresses of business life shows me a lot about myself. Like I learned more things about myself as a person. So I'm curious, what have you learned about Erin Renfrow as you've been on this journey?
Thanks, Greg. Putting me on the couch here in front of everybody. Appreciate it, buddy. Jeez. Jeez. Thought this was going to be one of those private. I just signed my HIPAA. Uh, the couple of things it is the fact of I don't know what I'm doing nearly as well as I thought I did with managing people that are free in the world. I mean, the crazy thing is I used to be a high school math teacher and I managed my classroom fairly well. Students liked it, which made me a really good sell. You can sell high school math, you can sell anything. That's easy. But those kids are kind of under your thumb to an extent. They have to be there and they got rules. Da, da, da. Well, when you get out in the free world and now everybody's free range, you can do what they want, make their own decisions. It's a little different. And then how do you do that? Especially because I've got some family that works for us. We've got, people who've been friends for a long time that work for us, and we're all in some of the same friend groups. And the funnest one I have is my wife works with me, not for me, with me. And so that's been an adventure in learning. And speaking to your point, there's been several times I've told my wife, I think I'm a good communicator. I think I was very clear in what I said, but I guess not. So that's honestly right now, that's my biggest focus now because you kind of okay, well, we need to get this fixed. And we got some attitudes kind of, we need to get this fixed. But I've noticed in almost all my customers that we're doing business with, well, they need this taken care of, or that taken care of. And this guy's not talking to that guy, and that guy's not talking to this guy. And I mean, we've only got like 10 people. I'm like, if our communication is not that good now, it's sure not going to get better. I'm like, okay, it's like a married couple not getting along. Let's have a baby. That'll fix it. I'm like, okay, well, let's grow. That'll fix. No, no. So that's my new rabbit hole now. That's my next big challenge is making sure we got solid communication. People understand each other.
Yeah, absolutely. And you mentioned working with friends and family, people you had relationships with outside of the business. So how do you manage that?
Yeah.
The business and the personal intermingling like that?
I don't know. No, I mean, yeah. Honestly, some of it's been pretty good. So it's like my stepson was working for us, and it was great because it gave him a chance, and he learned a lot. And then he realized, I actually really like the plumbing. I don't like having to deal with all these different moving parts. I think I want to be. So he got introduced to all this stuff, and so he just started about 3 weeks ago of going to do his plumbing stuff. And when he went and interviewed with his first, people that he was looking at, they're like, dude, with all your management of projects, we're going to make you a boss as soon as we can. And now, we had another young kid. We've actually got an electric company where we're licensed electricians now and licensed roofers. And the same thing, I've got a journeyman who's actually 69. So he's my journeyman. So he's doing this part time. And we've got a new apprentice that had come to work for us for a year. And he said, this kid is one of the best managers because it's his job to communicate from, with the other parts of the company over to the electrical stuff. And they said, he's great at this. But like my son at night, when he's here hanging out, then there comes a point in time, and even with my wife, we say, okay, Are you talking to Erin, your work, or Erin, your husband? Are you talking to your husband, or we still say boss, but that's not what. And I'll ask her sometimes when she starts telling me about some stuff during the day. Are you talking to your boss or your husband? Because I got to put on different ears. If it's your boss, let's get in it. Let's figure it out. If you talk to your husband, I'm sorry, hun, that sucks. And that's seriously with her, that's the biggest deal. My son works for us, the same thing. When he's hanging out, the one thing that is really nice though is whenever this starts to run a deal, I just kind of shake it, and he's like, "Yes, sir."
Oh man. So something and I love I think we're going to coin this because I love it. You're talking about free range employees, right? So the employees who aren't under the roof, they have to go out and do something outside of the purview or the site of the management or the ownership. So how do you all manage your free range employees to make sure that they're doing what they're supposed to be doing?
We've got a couple of apps, and we're just starting to really. It's like we just moved everybody over to, and we're, like last week, to their payroll app has a tracker. And so we're going to try that a little bit just so we can kind of see where everybody is. We've got another app that's where people got to take pictures called Company Cam. So anyway, I tell them all, hey, if you're at a site, every time you're at a site, take a picture of something. So that way, and the way we word it is so that way, if we're asked, when was the last time somebody was here? Because we've got multiple projects going on. And there have been times where somebody will say, well, we haven't seen your guys here in a week. We're like, well, here's pictures where we're doing some stuff, whatever the case may be. And so that kind of helps along too. At the end of the day, really, it's just about production. I mean, if it's getting done, then okay. I mean, then we know. If it's not getting done, then we don't know.
Yeah, you reminded me of a story that I heard from a fellow coach, and I'm probably not going to get this totally right, but basically, they were working with a business, and they got the trackers for the vehicles, and they realized that their employees were all going to like the same bakery or whatever it was every morning, taking each of the vehicles over there, spending all this time. It had to do with one-way streets, and it ended up with, it was costing like 30 or 40 minutes a day because all of these guys were heading over to this bakery. So when they realized that, they just set it up where everybody told the secretary what they wanted from that bakery, and on her way into the office, she would stop and pick everything up and bring it in. So just
Yeah.
by being able to look at that data and say, okay, what do we got going on here, and how can we get some of our time back? Um, they were able to save 40 minutes a day, and provide a nice little benefit to their employees as well. So I think there's a lot of value there. So how are you balancing having that data and that information with the perception that Big Brother is always watching?
It's kind of so new a little bit that we haven't had to really hit that threshold yet. I mean, right now, what we're running into is they're saying it's eating my battery. And it is. I'm like, hell, plug it into the truck. Well, I got to have this plug. I'm like, all right. So that's kind of our next step now. And we did get a little pushback. Well, we're out all the time. I'm like, no, only when your app's running. Only when your app's. And so if listen, if you got something you want to do at lunch and you don't want us to know where you are, no problem. You clock out. You're on your own. So, but that was one of their concerns. But I'm like, hey, anytime you don't want us to know where you are, no problem. Just clock out. Live your life. And when you're back on, clock back in. Here we go.
So you talked a little bit about having a right-hand person, your COO. So what are some of the things that you are able to identify that you could delegate over to her, and what led you to make the decisions to pick those specific things to hand off?
I don't like paperwork. I don't like details. I don't like to finish things. So these are things about myself I know. I like new. I like meeting the new people. I like starting the new things. I like figuring it out. I'm what I call a 70%er. Once I get 70% there, I'm like, lost my interest. Next. Then emails. I don't read emails. Barely. I mean, I look at them. I've got 0 red dots. I'm OCD about them red dots on my phone. But we all have talents. We all have things that we're good at, and I'm kind of a believer of you double down. It's like Greg. I know Greg's like a musician, And listening to that voice, Greg, you got to do something for me. I just need you to say, "Giddy up, papa, mau mau." I come do the world a favor. Give us one real
Yeah.
quick.
Papa, bow, bow. Does that work? You're
See?
lucky.
I knew he's gonna be perfect for that,
You're
dude.
lucky. My granny listened to country music all the time, and I know that reference.
That was beautiful,
Well,
man.
Greg plays guitar too, so I think we're gonna have him write a theme song for the podcast. So stay tuned for that, ladies and gentlemen. We'll have Greg's velvety vocals accompanied by his acoustic guitar leading us in the near future, I'm sure.
Yeah.
That will just be the next level. Done.
Not to shift gears or anything, but back to something you said a while ago. That resonated with me. So you talked about not liking the little details. You talked about thinking about what's next. And that definitely hits home with me. I'm the same way. I don't getting bogged down in all the little minutia. I like to look forward. I like to, what's the next thing we're gonna do? And so when I get somebody who can handle some of those other things, the things that I don't like as much. One thing I've learned about myself, um, in in part thanks to some observation from my illustrious business coach, is that I've made the mistake in the past of what Eric would call abdicating instead of delegating. Where like I hand it off,
Yeah.
great. Now this person's going to handle this. I don't have to worry about it. And then figure out after mistakes have already been made that like, oh, I should have been paying closer attention to this. So how do you handle that, abdicate versus delegate, that fine line?
Once again, Greg, thank you. I mean, Eric calls me out on this stuff in public, in private, just me and him, and here you are throwing it out to the world. Honestly, that was one of the biggest things whenever I started doing this, that I was like, "Oh crap," because that's what I would here. It's just yours now. You deal with it. You figure it out. And that's one of the things. Carrie, who runs this stuff, and Kim, my wife, they worked together for like 10 years before Kimmy came with me, and then we stole Carrie. She came and joined us too. That's what Kim would say. He just gives it to you and doesn't tell you what to do. And I'm like, yeah, because I know what to do. So you do too. Just figure, if I know it, then you know it. So handle. You nay. And so that's one of the things I'm still struggling with, is actually blocking my time well, to where I do one-on-ones to say, okay, how's it going? What do we need to do? What are the tweaks we need to make? And then giving good feedback. Because people ask me questions. They're like, we don't want to ask you questions. Why? Because you get irritated with us. I'm like, yeah, because I don't want to answer that question. Y'all figure it out. I don't want to deal. I can't do that. Some questions, there's some but that it's very hard, because either I'm the chief or I'm the Indian. And in finding a little bit of balance of being co-chiefs for a minute until they've got it, to hand that to the lieutenant, they still need guidance. And I don't want to do that. I want to do this. I don't want to do that. I want to go do this. And I'm finding that's one of the most difficult things for me in the past 6 months, is taking that. And then there's other, how do you give enough guidance without it being micromanaging? And that's where we say, his name is Solomon, and good luck.
Well, and I think to that point, the it's giving the direct guidance, but then you don't have to stand there looking over the shoulder the whole time, right? Then it's just having those touch points. But I do think there's something very, very important about, this is how we do it here, and making sure that people have clear expectations and understand their job. As you were talking, it reminded me of I was working with a couple of guys who were partners in a business, and they were just so frustrated with their office manager. And I said, guys, take out a piece of paper each, and I want each of you to write down the top 10 things that your office manager is responsible for. And so don't look at each other's papers. So they wrote down the top 10 things, and then I had one of them read off what he wrote, and the other one checked off everything that matched. I think the first 2 or 3 were on both sheets, and after that, they were completely different things. And my response to them was, if you guys don't understand what her job is, then how in the hell is she supposed to know what her job is? So I think that clear, concise direction is one thing versus constantly standing over somebody, pointing out their mistakes. So I think that's kind of the difference in the micromanagement versus the very, very clear. You think about the airline pilot. I don't have a problem with them going through that flip chart every time before they take off, right? That's pretty micromanagement as far as I'm concerned from from the airlines or from the FAA or whoever it is who requires that. But I'm really, really glad that they're micromanaging that pilot at that moment.
Yeah, and I think realizing like when that's needed and when it's not, and being okay with recognizing that. I had a therapist I supervised one time that was really struggling with certain aspects of the job, and wasn't getting any better after a couple conversations. So I put together this plan for how we were going to address this, and it was very micromanaging. And I shared this plan with my boss, the COO of the company, and she was like, "Yeah, I think that's great." And I said, "The only hang up I have, the reason I haven't sat down and gone over this with him is, yeah, it's so micromanaging. If my boss gave this plan to me, I'd start looking for another job." And her response to that was, "Yeah, but Greg, no one has to do that with you. That's why you're in your position and he's in the position he's in." And that made sense. Like some people can be pretty hands off and they do great. And some people do need more attention, and it's okay to recognize the difference.
Well, one of the weird deals is you go from a company where you're it, and then you've got your subs, they've been with me for a long time. So now you've hired one person. Okay, well, what's my job? I don't know. We'll figure it out. I need you to do this sort of stuff. We'll figure it out. And then you hire the second person. What's my job? Well, we'll figure it. And you do, because there's three of you. And then once you get to about 6 or 7, it's not, you can't do that anymore because this person wants, no, I don't want them doing this. And so now I got to have freaking job descriptions and KIPs and KUDs. And now we're getting into all the alphabet soup. We're like the military or the government. I'm like, jeez.
You're speaking my love language right now, Aaron.
Yeah, org charts. And I'm like, for me, one of the things that was a wonderfully sad day was when we actually did get an office. And then they brought in the copy machine that Carrie said, we need a good copy machine. Here comes this copy machine. I'm like, this takes me back to my teacher days. This is a great big, huge copy printer or whatever. I'm like, we're a real freaking business now. It's not just me having fun and doing good and enjoying life. I'm like, freaking copy machine, real business meeting. We're having meetings. How often do we got to have these meetings? Every week? Can we have lunch during it? Yes. They won't let me take them to happy hour during all the business meetings no more because we weren't getting much done, but at least we get to have lunch, most of them. But Shimony, they're dragging me kicking and screaming into doing this. And now I'm thankful. I'm like, okay, thanks, guys. We're getting some definitions. We're still working on it. We're still getting there. But next time we hire somebody, it'll be the first time we hire somebody who we can actually say, look on this piece of paper, this is your job. And I think that's going to help tremendously.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. So, all right, to kind of wrap us up here, I guess my last question for you would be, knowing everything that you know now from your journey, what is one piece of advice that you would have for other business owners?
I think it goes back to kind of Warren Buffett stuff. Just have low expectations for how easy it's going to be, because it's going to be harder. And at the same time, then be sure and block your time for yourself. Right in time of Erin needs to have a meeting with Mr. Renfrow to work on the business. Let your team know during this hour, I'm out. And then in the evening, during this time, no, it's date time. The phone is off. It's me and the wife. So the airline, put your mask on and then put theirs on. So make sure you're taking care of yourself in your personal world first, and then take care of your business. But for most people, that's good advice. I mean, there's a few, but anyway. So that would be, and then and get a good coach. I mean, seriously, no matter what, you need a good coach. And I've been saying for years, everybody needs good counselors. I mean, there's no way it doesn't not help you if you're being honest with those people in your life, because all they want to do is make you better. They don't care. They just want to help make you better.
Yeah, well, that's awesome advice, and thank you so much for being here, man. We appreciate you joining us. It was a pleasure having you.
All right. We'll do it again soon, I'm sure.
All right. Good talking to you.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, all right, and to those of you who are watching us on YouTube, go ahead, if you would, do yourself a favor, do us a favor, do your friends a favor, and subscribe. If you're listening to us on Spotify or Apple, go ahead and like, follow, share, all of those good things, and pass the word about the Business Brains and BS podcast so we can grow this community. So until next time, we'll see you.